Welcome to another edition of Bases and Balls with my good friend, Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus, brought to you by Nika IBEW. Rosie, it was this week back in 1993. The tickets went on sale for the very first time to get tickets for the 94 season at Progressive Field, then Jacobs Field in Cleveland. And I guess I wanted to start off because you make the circuit in Major League Baseball, every one of these ballparks. Your viewpoint, how's our stadium held up through the years? Because, I mean, I love the adjustments, the additions, and I hear there's more to come. But talk about the old ballpark, Progressive Field.
Yeah, I mean, Ray, I'll tell you, it's still, I think, one of the gems of Major League Baseball. And there's no better place, especially when it's full. You know, you get a Friday night in there with fireworks, and if the team's playing well, I don't know if there's a louder building. I mean, I imagine some of the indoor ones are, but they're indoors, you know, and that's, you know, that's a different dynamic. So, you know, you have a traditional outdoor ballpark that was, you know, I thought they thought of a ton of different stuff. They made some improvements along the way, but it's a couple of years back, I think when Ron Gardenhire was still managing the Tigers, and he even looked around and he said, "Man, this place." He asked how old it was, and when I told him, he said, "Come on." He goes, "Really?" And he kind of knew when it opened, but he just, when you think about it in terms of the amount of years it's been around and how it looks, it's held up very, very well.
And some good adjustments through the years with the right field and everything that they've done at the ballpark. Let me ask you this. You, as I mentioned, you go to all these ballparks. Most of us don't have the opportunity to do that. What ballparks are real appealing to you as you look around the ballparks in other cities? What do you like most?
You know, I think there's redeeming qualities to all of them. The old ones are cool, you know, Fenway Park and Wrigley, because of the tradition. One of my favorite new ones is San Francisco. Just the view is incredible. You know, it looks out over the bay, and, you know, anytime you have home runs splashing down in the water outside the, you know, right field, that's pretty neat. But then there's some others, maybe kind of some sleepers, just because maybe the booth is really easy to work in and the view is great. I like Houston and Seattle. They're both retractable roof ballparks, so it's kind of nice because you know you're going to play, but they still kind of have an outdoor feel, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, most of them are, you know, they're major league parks, and there's kind of quirks and neat things about all of them, which makes it a lot of fun to go visit them.
Nothing like walking into the ballpark and seeing the green grass, and Rosie gets to do that just about every day. So that's pretty darn nice. Rosie, let's talk a little bit of our bullpen. And right now, the go-to guy, and we haven't talked a lot about him with us on Bases and Balls, is Eli Morgan. Came in to pitch again on Wednesday night, win an inning and 2/3. He has been lights out. And I thought maybe you can talk about what you saw last year, because you even told me at the end of the last year, you said, this kid, Eli Morgan, got some valued innings last year. Talk about him last year and now into the season of 2022.
Right. It's remarkable. If we had this conversation in spring training, you would have said, well, you know, there's a nice depth option if someone gets hurt, to be a starter, you know, to help out when they need a starter. But you know, as it stands in spring training, there's not enough spots. And what are they going to do? When I talked to him, he said, "Hey, I'll work in relief. Any role in the major leagues is where they want to be." So he's like, "Yeah, I'll work out of the bullpen." And he said, "It'd be kind of fun." And I didn't think anything of it, but man, is he having fun. And now he's become their best reliever to get to Class A. It's amazing. The big reason why, there's a 16-mile-an-hour difference from his fastball to his changeup, which is about the biggest spread in Major League Baseball. And hitters can't handle that change in velocity when we're not sure which one's coming. So that's a big reason why. But you know, he's embraced the role. I think that's the key. He says, I love being down there and every day knowing that I could be part of the game. Not sure, but when that phone rings, you get that adrenaline jump, and he says he loves it. which is not to say he wouldn't go back to starting if they asked him to, but he really is enjoying the bullpen life, and it's treating him really well. And I imagine they would have found someone else to do that job, but I'd be hard pressed to find out who would do it better right now than Eli Morgan.
It's been great to see Tito's confidence grow in him too, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their biggest challenge may be not overusing him. Last night was the first time he had pitched games, so they want to be careful with that. But so far, that's the key. That was the first time he's gone back to back this season, so that's good. And there's been a couple of appearances where he's just faced a couple of hitters to clean up an inning, and then they get him out of there. So they're using him great. He's loving it, and it's been a huge help to the team.
Eli Morgan, for sure. Let's talk about the starting rotation. Traditionally, our strength. And when you got a Cy Young Award winner and Shane Bieber, and you've got Savali and Plesac and McKenzie and Quantrill, it should be a strength of your team. But you've seen these guys now for 3 months. Your viewpoint, starting rotation, Rosie.
It's rounded into shape just the way they kind of planned it. They've gotten through the slow start, which was by design, not necessarily the results, but how they handled the shorter spring training. The organization and pitching coach Carl Willis and Tito, they were adamant that they were not going to rush these guys just because it was a shorter spring. They were going to keep them on a traditional spring schedule. And if that meant that the first couple of weeks or so of the season might be challenging, they were going to live with that because they want these guys healthy for 30 starts. They're not worried about April. You don't want to lose games in April, but they wanted to make sure these guys were healthy. And I think we saw that performance wasn't quite what we're accustomed to, certainly not what we're seeing now, this last stretch through the rotation. So I think they played it really well. And I think they'll be okay in August and September because of how they handled April. And now the results are just off the charts. They're getting great starts day after day after day.
One thing that I've said for a couple of years that I thought we needed in the rotation, and I know we've tried a couple of different people, is a lefty in the rotation to give a different look to the team. And here comes this kid, Connor Pilkington. And I heard your interview with him the other day that I just love. This guy's just an old-fashioned throwback lefty who comes out there and throws, and he's been a pleasant surprise coming up to the system. Maybe not a surprise to the inner workings of the organization, but to us fans. Talk about Pilkington, Rosie.
Well, maybe a little bit, Ray, because remember now, he was just acquired last summer in a trade. So they spent kind of those last 2 months when he was at Double-A to learn who he is and what they can do to make him better. And then he had the good fortune of being added to the 40-man roster because that's where he is in his career in the offseason. And that's opened the door for an opportunity here in the big leagues with the injury to Savali. It's interesting. I talked to him after not that really good start he just had, but the one prior where he had a little command issue. And he said, I think my stuff's okay up here. I just need to throw strikes. And some days you just can't, and you don't know why. It just doesn't come together. And that was one of those days. So I just thought his outlook was pretty good on an outing where he had to battle to survive, kind of one of those. And then we saw when everything clicks, he could be really good. And that happened his last start. And Ray, with all this rain and the postponements, there's a pretty regular dose of double headers coming up. So I think you'll see the Guardians need that sixth pitcher in the rotation. So if Savali can come back pretty quick here, which it appears he's on track to do, that doesn't mean Pilkington's going to go, back to the minor leagues full time. I think they'll still need him for those double headers, and they'll need 6 starting pitchers. So that bodes well for him.
There you go. A view of bases and balls with Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus, brought to you by Nika IBEW. Rosie takes time out of his busy week to join us each and every Friday in the show. Rosie, my friend, thank you for the visit again. Always appreciate the time, and we'll reconnect again next week.
You got it, Ray. Thanks.